Partly share, she was. Good afternoon, everyone. We find ourselves at the second Thursday of the month, which means welcome to the library board meeting. Call that to order and would like to start with any citizens' comments.
We have had none submitted.
Okay, and anyone in the audience? That being a no, we are going to move on. Do we have remarks from any of the members of the Johnson County Library Board of Directors, which is now quorate and full, which is very nice. Everyone is here, so do we have any remarks? I'm going to take the lack of eye contact and button pushing to be a no. Okay, so that is on to my comments. The only thing I have this month is that last week I got to go to the county's budget hearings with Tricia and Dave, and we got to ask for a really lot of money and promise that we're going to be really, really wise stewards of the public purse. So hopefully that resonated with our elected officials, and we will in fact have a budget for 2024. So other than that, I do not have any remarks. That takes us to the Development Department. Christopher, if you please, sir.
Pleases me very much, Madam Chair, to offer you a few highlights from the reports submitted from the various components of the Development Department to the board packet. In May of this year, Johnson County Library's volunteer coordinator, Amber Burrick-Slater, was chosen to represent 12 county departments at Johnson County Government's Citizens Academy. The group of 40 community members participated in an 11-week program to learn how county government works, and Amber presented about county volunteer opportunities, including Johnson County Library. We're proud of Amber's continued leadership role in the county's volunteer coordination efforts. You may have heard during the past couple of years, the Friends need more space for the many facets of their successful operations. After striking out on Lackman, the Friends have reconvened the search for a new home starting 2025. If you know anyone who happens to have a 12,000 square foot mixed-use retail facility centrally located in Johnson County, send them our way. We want to be friends. The Johnson County Library Foundation received grants from Ann and Bob Rainier, the V&H Charitable Foundation, combined with a gift from the Royals Charities to purchase an interactive unit for the children's area at the new Marion Plaza Library. The Rainier family generously supported a similar unit here at Central Library, and we're very grateful for their continued support of Johnson County Library. Library Let's Loose planning is underway. This year's theme is Libraries Are Magic, highlighting some of the ways Johnson County Library amazes our community every day. We're calling sponsors and confirming restaurant participation for our annual signature event. We look forward to seeing you there too. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a feeling Commissioner Hanslick may be a little busy at the moment, so if she comes in, we will backtrack should she have anything to share with us. So that takes us on to our board report. Mr. Logan, if you please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've been asked by staff to review two items tonight, specifically the board's authority with respect to reconsider of collections and public and non-public forums. So I'll take up requests for reconsideration first. I think it's important to understand there's an extensive procedure that provides an opportunity for patrons who wish to request a reconsideration of materials here at the library. And that's set forth in the collection development policy. The policy states obviously all the criteria for selection, but there's a specific form that's included and a procedure described in section 11 of the policy. It's really a 5-step process that's laid out very clearly as to how that would proceed. There's a form, the request for reconsideration form. It's linked right there underneath the collection development policy, so a person could get that. They would submit it. And I'll jump to the kind of conclusion. The board's authority is at the very end after 3 opportunities for appeal. But they would submit the form. The collection development manager would review that. the form specifies reasons why they're requesting it, what the material is. They would review that, offer an opinion. The opinion and the analysis is specifically set out in the policy, and it's whether or not the collection development policy was followed with respect to selection of the material. And then on review, there are 3 steps for appeal and review of that question. First goes to a committee, a staff committee, where it's reviewed to confirm, whether or not the collection development manager followed that analysis. If that's not satisfactory, it goes to the county librarian. If that is not satisfactory, the person can appeal once more to the board. They would have the opportunity to come and be before the board, and the board would be presented with the issue and take it up for consideration. That would be considered a final determination. The board has authority, as you know, for selection of materials as a matter of statute, so your decision on that would be a final decision. Again, the collection development policy sets out the criteria for selection. It's really about social and literary merit. There's no opinion taken with respect to subject material or any sort of viewpoint or that nature, really laying things out like patron demand, analyzing that. Staff is, as we all know, very good at analyzing what patrons want, what is timely, and making decisions on selection for that reason. So that's request for reconsideration. Is there any question I can answer on that?
That's what I was going to ask.
I would ask.
We average about 5 a year. Some might be a little higher one year, a little lower one year. Has anything been ever reconsidered? We have moved items from like one collection in the library to another collection. That's mostly the action, the most action that gets taken. I can think of 1 or 2 in the history that have been properly removed. No longer on the shelf, we no longer own it.
And Tricia, how many times have those risen up to the board level for appeal, or is it always handled
Never.
by staff? Thank you.
Most of the request, the conversation in a written form between the collection development manager and the citizen inquiring is usually resolved at that level. And I would say, this is extremely anecdotally, but many people express their thankfulness that somebody has engaged them in the conversation and they got to learn more about the policy, the library, and just kind of how all of it works.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll move on to public and non-public forums, and we're bringing this up today because you're going to be considering an MOU with Interurban Art House with respect to some displays of artwork throughout branch facilities. And the library has the right, both in terms of library policy as well as more broadly in terms of constitutional law with respect to First Amendment rights, to designate certain property as off limits for public forum or for public speech. ARM 2080-20 establishes what's called a non-public forum, certain places where public speech is not able to occur, like, for example, display cases or bookshelves, exhibit cases. One area that's specifically called out is that the library is able to select artwork for certain placement throughout the library branches, and that does not create some sort of public forum for others to come and post certain kinds of art or to post certain materials or speech, whatever it might be. But the flip side is, conversely, that there's also an opportunity for a public forum. And that's something that more broadly is required of government. The library is subject to that as well. And the library, inside the library, the ARM provides for bulletin boards or a space for posting of certain information for government or nonprofit information. Meeting rooms can be used for people to gather and discuss or meet on those issues. It's not an opportunity for commercial speech, which is treated differently than, say, educational or cultural subjects. Commercial speech is not permitted. And then outside of the building, they're under ARM 2080-24 petitioning zones where people can picket or demonstrate peacefully. That's space designated by staff. Staff is able to regulate the location. And in all circumstances, there's a substantial reason why staff would regulate any sort of speech or activity that might impede other patrons' use of the library. So that's, county librarian is authorized in the arms sections to enforce those rules and to set up certain guidelines. So that is the public and non-public forum.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Thank you very much. Tricia, on to the county librarian report, please.
We'll have Dave come to the podium for the finance report.
Good afternoon, Dave Rodney. Good afternoon, board. I'm going to direct you to page 8 of your library board report. It's the total revenue report so we're in June. We're looking back at April and how we finished April 2023. As of the end of April, we had received approximately $25.28 million in total revenues, which is around 53%. And from a percentage standpoint is on par with where we were at this time in 2022. From an expenditure standpoint, we had and total encumbrances, we have a little over 18.5 million, which compared to the 48 million that we have in expenditure budgets, around 39%. I will say this, that sounds like maybe we're tracking higher than where we should be, but if you took the interfund transfer amount out, which has all, for the most part, been paid ahead for the year, and the collection encumbrances were more like 30%. So, I mean, we're actually below kind of where I'd expect us to be as of April. So, and it's just where we are at this point in time. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have. Okay, thank you.
I'll have Adam join us at the podium for the statistics report.
Yes, hello, Adam Wathen, Associate Director for Branch Services for the monthly statistical report. You'll see that we have statistics through April this month, and we are showing that our circulation is on par with previous months, but it's dipping a little bit lower in physical, and then our digital trend continues up. It doesn't pace with 2020, but it is very close. And then in our visitation trend, you'll see that we continue to pace, we continue to grow in visitation, and we're approaching pre-pandemic levels of visitation in our libraries. Do you have any questions about those numbers?
All right, and then Lacey will join us to do the department-specific statistics for collections.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, my name is Lacey Griffin, and I am the Collection Development Manager. Today, I will introduce you to the wonderful Collection Development team. Many of them came in today. And we'll talk about projects that we've been working on the last year, and also some of our annual statistics, which were updated to have figures for 2022. The Collection Development Department is a team that purchases all the digital and physical collections for the entire Johnson County Library system. We purchase circulating materials such as books, DVDs, CDs, video games, kits, databases, periodicals, and various special collections like ebooks and e-audiobooks. This team works hard to fulfill the library's mission, but by not only providing materials that support and enrich people's lives, but also by assessing formats to enhance patrons' access and working with architects to ensure that shelving layouts meet building needs and the unique communities that each one of them serve. The Collection Development team has undergone some changes over the last year, and we have 2 new teammates. 2 of my staff are actually in the NEO class that is up front up here today too. So if you guys want to stand up. Yeah, just my people. Not all the NEO people have to stand up, just mine. You do. Stand up in the back.
Collection department, folks.
The whole collection department.
Yeah.
All of us. All right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Karen Wickwire was hired in December, and she's our new Assistant Collection Development Manager. She will help with the coordination of shelving layouts and is part of the circulation coordination team of other assistant managers. And she's a manager over acquisitions and technical services. Samantha Chin, she didn't know this was coming, is part of this month's NEO class. She comes to us from KCK Public Library, and she is our new e-resources collection specialist. Hope Harms, who is also part of NEO. She is in the NEO class because she is moving. She was our former e-resources collection specialist, and she is now our new digital access and cataloging specialist. Beth Atwater is our collection specialist over adult fiction and film. Elena Mitvicker is our collection specialist over youth and teen materials. Matt Fegan is our collection specialist over adult nonfiction, reference, video games, and music. And then we have one teammate that's missing today, and her name's Rachel Fair, and she's our department senior clerk, and she does all sorts of tasks like statistics, maintaining the periodical collection, and she's been doing a lot of work as we've been redoing the Spanish collection. So, thanks, guys. All right. Projects this team has been a part of over the last year include our transition to the new Libby platform. I know Bethany's a big fan of that. For ebooks and e-audiobooks. Growing our Spanish collection and actually matching the service to branch locations with growing populations and usage. Creating the infrastructure to expand our collection to include more world languages, both in translations and in bilingual. Working with the Reader's Advisory staff to create circulating book club kits. Working with outside vendors to create a children's talking books collection. Working with the facilities department to design the shelving layout for the new Merriam Plaza branch, and then onboarding our new staff. All right, now on to the annual statistics. Here in this graph, you will see the 10-year collection expenditures. This shows the total expenditure on collection over the last 10 years, including all purchases made on digital and physical materials. You can see that there was a spike in expenditure in 2018. This accounts for the addition of the Monticello Library and its opening collection. We received an additional $1 million to purchase new materials for the Monticello branch, and the money was spent over 3 years, so between 2016, 2017, with the bulk of it being in 2018. Last year, the budget reached $3.97 million as we received an increase in the operating budget for digital products and an increase from the Library Foundation and their yearly endowment. On this slide, you will see two graphs. The first one depicts the total physical collection. In this graph, you can see the number of items in our collection has remained fairly stable, about 1.1 million items. There was an increase in materials in 2017 and 18 as we grew the collection to accommodate our new Monticello Library, expanding us to 14 branches. Over the last 2 years, we have shifted some of our holdings to digital resources and dramatically increased our digital offerings, which kind of dropped the physical offerings a little bit. In the second graph, you will see the number of physical books added, the blue line, and the amount of physical books weeded, the orange line, over the last 10 years. You can follow the blue line as it rises as we focus on the physical book collection for Monticello, and then you can see the line drop as we moved our attention to digital collection. And then there's a little increase over the last year where we adjusted spending back to physical materials after COVID, and our visitations and the buildings have begun to rise, so we've focused a little bit more on physical. As you follow the orange line, you will see that we began to implement new weeding practices that began to normalize the weeding materials between 100,000 to 150,000 a year, with a spike in 2018. After Monticello's opening, we increased weeding to rebalance the collection system-wide. By 2019, we returned to stable weeding rates that kind of mirror 2015. There's a small uptick in 2021 when we use Central Resource Center's closure to assess physical and reference collections against our digital holdings. On this slide, in the first graph, you will see the total digital content use over the last 6 years, and it's a nice steady rise with a spike in 2020. While we did move down from that 2020 spike, our usage in 2022 is significantly higher. Go Libby. And it's possible that we could in 2023 break our 2020 record. Digital content formats include ebooks, e-audiobooks, e-magazines, databases, streaming video, and e-learning software. In the second graph, the total ebook and school ebook use, it shows a steady increase in circulation of ebooks for our patrons. In the summer of 2022, we switched the ebook and e-audiobook vendor and introduced the new platform, Libby. In this transition, we worked with our school districts in the area to continue our partnership in sharing e-materials through a shared platform. This transition did cause a decrease in the school ebook usage as schools worked last fall to onboard and train staff and students in the new platform. Statistics for 2023 will be the first to include a full school year with Libby, and we believe that this will swing up 2022's school usage trend. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, Lacey, is there a target % of our budget that we spend on collection, or is it?
So it's been pretty much around 10% of the operating budget.
And is there a split between physical and digital? Is it
There is
60,
a split
40,
between
50?
digital and physical. What we'll normally do is we make every decision at the title level and see how many formats we can fill in underneath that. And so that breaks it all into different percentages. Ebook is a second format. We try to buy everything in physical first because that there's no barrier to access there. It's just literacy would be your barrier. So after we meet it there, then we do everything else. One of the interesting things with that is CD audio is e-audio is kind of flipped on top of CD audio now, where more people can have access and have a phone and can use e-audio than they have CD players anymore, so.
Thank you. And one other thing, are we basically on par with other similar sized libraries on what we spend on collections, or?
We have a nice budget.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Lacey. They do, this department is incredibly responsive. As you can see in the statistics during COVID, they really put their heads together to adapt and respond to what patrons needed and to the access that we were able to give. And they are also incredibly professionally involved in libraries locally, in the metro, nationally, maybe even internationally. I'm looking to see if they're, maybe, who knows? They could be, and but they do a great job of representing the library and always keeping access at the forefront of their work every single day. So really appreciate you guys coming today and learning a little bit more about the statistics of your department. So Megan is joining us next at the podium to talk about the Comprehensive Library Master Plan.
Good afternoon. I'm Megan Clark, one of the project coordinators at the library. And I'm here on behalf of the Merriam Plaza Core team to give you an update on the Merriam project. So I'll give you a brief construction update, talk about next steps, give you an overview of the timeline, and share a few progress photos for real this time. Those didn't make it in last time. So for construction update, over the last month, Titan has been progressing on several things, including installation of the exterior framing, beginning installation of the sheathing on the east side of the building, which you're going to see in some of the pictures, installing roof drains and overhead piping, installing wood blocking around the perimeter parapet, beginning work on the sprinkler system in the north and south overhang areas, and they continued with their utility work. And our next steps for the month ahead will be completing exterior framing and sheathing and beginning interior framing, installing underground primary electrical conduit and set transformer pad, continuing roof work, continuing utility work, completing underground storm water on the west side, and we're coordinating with the city of Merriam since this work will affect Slater Street to the west of the building. So there will be, in one portion of the street, will be down to one lane for the work to occur. And then beginning site paving. And as far as some non-construction updates, we are progressing toward the bond sale, and we'll hear more from Dave about that in new business. And kind of a fun thing that we're doing is we're excited to partner with Titan to host drywall sheets for member of the public to sign at Antioch, and we're also going to have one at Merriam Community Center. So they're going to the public can sign the back of the drywall, and then those will be installed, kind of like the beam signing. You know, you won't see it, but it'll be there. And we have had our first sheet out at Antioch, and it's already filling up. So we've got plenty more that we can offer for people to sign if they like. So I think slide. There's no changes to our timeline. We're still on time and on budget. And then we have some progress photos. So these are progress photos from April, which I didn't get to show last time. So you can see on the left, the light monitor structures on the roof are starting to take shape. And on the right, you can see the exterior metal stud framing. And in this picture, it's kind of fun because you can start to see the shape of the building going up. Then on our next slide, we have some photos from this past month. So you can see on the left, the installation of exterior framing under the south overhang and installation of some of the sheathing. And on the right, you can see installation of roof drains and overhead piping. And in our final picture here, we have sheathing on the east side of the building, which is kind of exciting to see the wall structure going up there. Any questions about Merriam Plaza? Okay. Well, I'll move on to capital projects timeline. So again, Merriam on time, on budget, and a little bit of an update about Lackman. So Lackman building closed to bids on May 26th. And while we had a lot of interest in the property, alas, we had no bids. But after conferring with county purchasing staff, library legal counsel, and library administration team, we're anticipating issuing an RFP for brokerage services that will allow us to select a broker and list the property. So this is the same method we used when we sold the old Blue Valley location in 2000. So drafting the RFP is underway, and it'll need to be posted and open for a few weeks to allow time for brokers to submit proposals. Proposals will then be reviewed by a selection committee overseen by county purchasing department, and a broker will be selected to list the property and bring back the best offer to the library board for consideration. And for a bit of context, when we sold the Blue Valley property, that took about 9 months through a broker. So we anticipate it could take several months to sell in that way. And as usual, we're incorporating lessons learned from this process of selling Lackman into how we're going to proceed with sales for future properties. And so we are interested in including up to 2 library board members as observers in the RFP interview and selection process. And I think Dr. Tricia, more about that.
Something similar process that we've used that several of you may have been involved in when we have done the RFP for architecture for new buildings. So we offer that to 2 people to sit in on the interviews as observers. So real similar, I think, Bethany, you have, and maybe David, and maybe Kelly or Mitra over the years. So if you're interested in that, let us know. We don't have an exact timeline on when that would happen, but we can sure coordinate those schedules and make that available to you all.
If there's no questions, I'll turn it over to Scott for some more updates.
Okay. Hello. I've got a little bit of updates on the CRP. Let's see, this is the right slide. So Oak Park construction, we're planning to have kickoff after the August primary. And Central West Wall, we had some discussion about this last month at the board meeting. Tricia sent a little bit of supplemental information out to the library board on that via email. We're anticipating bringing a contract back to the board in July or August for consideration regarding the west wall. Okay, and then one other thing I'd like to talk about tonight is air conditioners. As we're feeling the hot weather, some of our buildings are also feeling the strain of cooling our spaces. Over the last couple of weeks, we've had some close calls at Oak Park and Monticello. Our facilities partners and HVAC techs were able to get both issues fixed pretty quickly. We did have a brief closure last Friday at Monticello. So for Oak Park, we're kind of crossing our fingers a little bit that Oak Park's chiller stays up and running until we can close for that CRP work to start in August. That's one of the things we'll be replacing during that CRP project is the chiller. Let's see. For Monticello, our facilities partners are still assessing the cost and timeline for fixing the AC issue. It could be that we need to get a temporary chiller to keep those buildings open, which has a cost. So what we're doing tonight is hopefully we won't need any of this, and we want to make sure that we tell you guys in advance in case we do need to come back and talk about chillers and air conditioning at those two locations.
I have a question. I know that I just bought a new HVAC for my house last year, and it has like a 10-year warranty, 20-year warranty on some of the other parts. Do commercial air systems not have that? Monticello's not that old. I feel like this is a little early to have a major piece of equipment bust.
Right, I agree. Yeah, so we had a 1-year warranty for the Monticello system, which is standard. That's a best practice that we're now putting into place. We put into place at Lenexa and Merriam to have a longer warranty on those. It is unusual that they would go out so quickly. Our facilities folks are investigating the why so that we can try to figure out if it's something that we can address to not have it happen frequently in the future.
Any other questions?
Thanks.
Thank you, Scott and Megan. So,
Tricia, can I ask a question real
yes,
quick?
yes.
If we don't sell Lackman in the very near future, would we consider would we still have it as a polling place if elections come around and we still have the property? And the reason I ask
Yeah.
that is because at the volunteer luncheon, when we talked about Lackman,
Right.
people are like, oh, we just love to have that as a polling place. And I'm like, well, if we sell it, it's not going to be anymore.
I don't see why we couldn't, and I think it would be a coordination with elections if they have found another polling place, if they want to move it back for that year, but I think we would be open to it. There's no reason we've used it once as a polling place and as far as the bathrooms and safety and those types of things, so I don't know that there's a reason that we couldn't do that.
Okay, thanks.
Right, so Dave is just going to do a little update on the budget presentation that Bethany mentioned earlier.
Yeah, as Bethany talked about and as Tricia is alluding to, I'm going to give just a quick recap of kind of how things went last Thursday afternoon with the Board of County Commissioners. Overall, I think the 2024 budget presentation of the BOCC was a positive experience. We received some questions about the upcoming impact that may come with the salary and benefits adjustments, something that the BOCC is scheduled to consider later this month, and Tricia's going to talk about after this recap. We received some questions with regards to the work that we're doing with Prairie Village as we're negotiating and looking at entering into another memorandum of understanding with them and the progress that we hope to make with regards to a possible co-location with them and in our Corinth Library replacement in their community center. There were several questions that came up, interestingly, about Blue Valley Project, which isn't currently in our 5-year CIP, and so there were some questions as to why it moved out, and one commissioner had expressed their concerns about the Blue Valley replacement as a project. And then similarly, they had some questions about whether we should be doing the refresh expansion projects in DeSoto and Spring Hill, same commissioner. And let's see, then there were several commissioners that spoke very highly of the value of return on our investment that they believe we receive from the library. They talk about how great it is for the community and the many things that individuals can come and get and take part in that would cost way more than what their investment is by way of the property taxes that they pay for supporting library services. That's just kind of a brief recap of some of the conversation we had with the Board of County Commissioners. Tricia and I'm sure Bethany could add to that, and take any questions you might have. I do want to say that the Board of County Commissioners is finishing up their department agency office presentations. They've got some that they're involved with this afternoon, and I believe they should be wrapping up on those next Thursday, the 15th. On the following Thursday, June 22nd, the Board of County Commissioners should be taking action on setting a proposed expenditure maximum for the 2024 budget. There are 2 planned budget open houses. It's a kind of a new concept that the Board and County Commission, or CMO are wanting to do this year. One of them is planned out at the Olathe County Administration Building that Thursday, June 22nd from 5:30 to 7 o'clock p.m. And then they have another one planned up at the Mission, Kansas County's Northeast offices that located at 6000 in Lamar on Tuesday, June 27th from 5:30 to 7 o'clock p.m. And then the public budget hearing for the 2024 budget is scheduled for Monday, August 21st, and that's at the Johnson County County Admin Building, and I believe that's a 7 o'clock start time on that, with planned adoption of the budget set currently for Thursday, August 31st. And that would be taking place as part of the normal BOCC action agenda for that date. So that's just kind of a recap and a calendar of things to come. And with that, I'll take any questions you might have. Thank you.
So I'll add to that Bethany and Dave and Patty and I stayed for the department presentation following ours, and that was Parks and Rec. And I thought I had a great relationship with Jeff Stewart, who's the head of Parks, but he brought T-shirts for the Board of County Commissioners, and he did not let me know that. So we're going to have to renegotiate things, because I definitely would have brought T-shirts had I known that that was the level we were going for. But so I'm planning for next year already. So
I think books and treats.
something, yeah.
Would be better than T-shirts personally.
Yes.
Snacks or something.
I did get a text from Commissioner Hanslick that they are delayed in budget presentation, so she will not be joining us this evening. And then before I talk about the other updates, I wanted to welcome our new employees as we met Samantha. So they are a wonderful class. I got to spend some time with them on Monday evening. We have 2 legacy folks whose parents have worked here. One recent parent worked here. I mean, she worked here recently. And then the other one, I think, how long did your mom work here, Samantha? 20 plus, 25 years maybe. So many of us have known Samantha since she was like 4 years old. So it was a wonderful ripple that spread through the library. Like, Rhonda Dupree's daughter's gonna work here. So it's very good and heartening when you get to see folks that you've known for a long time, but also that her mom did such great work here, both their parents, and then they were inspired to come back to this. So thanks for being here, and they have had great questions all week as they've been learning more about the library. So on to the updates. In February, Commissioner Hanslick mentioned the compensation study, the salary and benefits study. So I wanted to give you a little bit more context. In February, our county manager, Penny Postoke Ferguson, shared with staff and the public that the Board of County Commissioners had heard the results of that salary and benefits market study. And then there was a recommendation for a new, to make that market study, fund it, and then a new pay structure. So today, or at this time, the action that's recommended to the Board of County Commissioners is that they fund that study, and that still is requiring an approval from the Board of County Commissioners. That approval will come hopefully at the end of June, so we're maybe a few weeks out from that. For the library, this impact is $1.9 million approximately if that recommendation is approved. We've worked with Dave and the Budget Committee, Library Board Budget Committee, to make sure that we can achieve that. So that is going forward, and as Dave mentioned, that was a common question to every department agency of what has the impact of maybe lower or too low salaries been on retention, been on recruitment for each department and agency. So we were able to speak a little bit about the impact here. Overall in the county, the impact here for the library has been a little bit more in retention, and when we've offered new staff or an offer letter, often their business has countered. So we've lost people in the middle of that interview process and had to go back out. There are several other departments where they are in a much worse shape. They have a 50% vacancy rate, a much higher turnover rate. So we're on the very fortunate end of that, but we still have had some of those ripples that certainly have cost time and efforts and other people taking on different parts of the job. So just wanted to get you a little bit of context about that. The Board of County Commissioners reviewed that information in the end of May. They had a committee of the whole. So if there's more information that folks are interested in about the details, that is recorded and you could certainly watch that. But we should be coming to a vote here at the end of June, and then that would, if approved, take place, I'll say mid-July is when that would start to kind of roll through all of the payroll processes from there out. So that's the salary and benefits study that you may have heard about. The next update, well, actually, I'll pause for questions there.
Actually,
Yeah.
I do have a question. The salary and benefit study is entirely separate from the '24 budget. This is something that would take effect this summer and roll out to increase salaries. Right now, we're not waiting for another budget cycle.
Correct, yeah. Do you want to say things?
We did plan our 2024 ask with the assumption that this is going to be approved in June. So there's approximately 1.9 million, because that's the full year impact that has been put into our 2024 proposal. So I don't know if the Board of County Commissioners takes some different set of actions, it may be that we have placed more there than it was necessary, but we've accommodated it, assuming that it was going to pass.
In '24, but what about for right now? That if they pass this in July,
Right.
does that mean that the second part of a July paycheck is going to see an increase, or would it be the next fiscal year that employees would actually start seeing more money in their paycheck?
So employees would begin seeing it at that last paycheck in July, assuming it passes. Our impact would be less than a full year, so it'd be roughly, I think, 48% of the 1.9 million. We think we can accommodate it from an expenditure standpoint within the existing expenditure budget. Now, if we'll be monitoring that, I'll continue to take watch on it. If we get close to where we need to possibly increase that, we could ask for a use of reserves temporary. Be a temporary thing, because it would be something we would need to basically just get us to the end of the year. Because in '24, like I said, we've already assumed it into our budget. So, and I think we can make it work.
Questions?
I think right now we're about $300,000 to $400,000 under budget on our salaries, which is,
Yeah.
I think, less than last month, but not much. So at least some of that we seem to be able to absorb just by
That turnover
right.
rate or
Right.
slippage.
I think is based upon where we are to budget, as best I can tell.
Yeah.
Does that sound about right?
You are on very close to where I think I am too on that, and that is something
370 would be
I kind of
more
project
exact.
out on. So yes, I think you're right, and then it's probably a little bit of gap maybe at the end that we might have to make up, and I'm confident we can. So
Nothing giving you heartburn, then we're good to go.
I'm feeling good about it.
Awesome. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Fantastic.
All right, the other update is the Juneteenth celebration. So you may remember last year was the first year the county adopted Juneteenth as a paid holiday. So this is our second county celebration of it. This morning, a colleague, Angel Tucker, and I were at the Board of County Commissioner meeting. We were part of a proclamation about Juneteenth. The library has several programs and opportunities that are going on, several walk-and reads at two different parks, Stoll Park on 119th, as well as, oh gosh, now I'm blanking, as another park. And someone will remember it, and we can get that information to you.
They can put it on a T-shirt.
put it on a t-shirt and send it to the BOCC. And then we'll also be participating on June 19th at the Juneteenth celebration that the county is sponsoring. That's taking place at the Lenexa City Center campus, right next to the library. So we'll have a booth there with library information, library card sign-up, those types of things. So involved on several fronts with that celebration. We are closed on that day, and so the irony of having a Juneteenth celebration near the library, but we're closed. So we will do our best to be as library-ish at our table and booth as we can be. And I will resist opening the library for anybody that tries to pick up their hold or wants to go see books. People will not let me do that, so that's good. And we're also in that partnering with Johnson County Parks and Rec, even though I should have learned my lesson today, but that was already a done deal. And then, so you're very welcome to come to that. You're of course invited to those events, and walk and reads will be up that week, the 10th through the 19th. And then libraries as cooling and warming center. So as Scott mentioned, temperatures are rising, and libraries are a cooling center, of course, in the summer, warming center in the winter. We open our libraries and we welcome folks who need that type of relief. The piece to remember is that if we're closed, we are not a cooling center. Sometimes we get crossways with the media in that they will assume we're open. Maybe June 19th is going to be a good example, and they may list us as a warming or cooling center, and then we're closed. So sometimes we may get some confusion going on, but just so you all know, our goal is to be a cooling center and warming center when we're open. We don't function in an emergency capacity. That's it. Now I'll invite Kinsley to the podium to do our strategic plan update.
Good afternoon. I'm Kinsley Riggs, Deputy County Librarian, and Joseph just told me the other park of the walk and read is Strang Park, right outside the back door.
Thank you.
Close to home. I will be providing you an update on the strategic plan today. For our new or returning board members, we provide a tri-annual update of our progress on the current strategic plan. Next slide, please. Our vision, Johnson County Library, creates an environment for people to learn, to explore, to enjoy, to create, to connect. And our mission, the library provides access to ideas, information, experiences, and materials that support and enrich people's lives. Under these statements, you'll see there are 5 key performance areas, or KPAs, that make up our strategic plan: education, community, convenience, communication, and operations. And I will provide an update in each of these areas. Next slide, please. The education KPA strives to create inclusive and welcoming environments that spark curiosity and learning. Staff were hard at work this winter planning our summer reading program and managing the outreach, book distribution to our community partners and local schools. The Race Project KC project team has been working on transitioning to its future state as a metro-wide community program with funding from the Kauffman Foundation grant. We hosted the annual Johnson County Genealogy Day in March and welcomed over 500 people into this space at Central. And as you've previously heard, this event and the Memory Lab are a huge success at the library. Elementia is our teen literary magazine, and it celebrated its 20th year this year, welcoming author A.S. King as a special guest speaker. And nearly 100 staff members have completed the first wave of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging training. The entire county organization took a DEIB survey that we're using to inform this work. And so far, 2 staff groups have completed a 3-part training put on by the county's talent and diversity specialist. Leadership Empowers All People, or LEAP, is a county-wide learning and development program, and we have several managers who serve as faculty for this program and many staff who have been attending the 3-day and 5-day LEAP programs. Cybersecurity for staff happens with micro-learnings each month and as an annual baseline training. So this is to ensure that all employees at Johnson County are aware of risks, threats, and best practices and are taking necessary measures to protect our digital assets. And we've also been participating in safety-related trainings, including fire and tornado drills, active shooter preparedness and response, and incident report writing. That's something our physical security specialist has been working with learning and development on, and that is for a suite of safety trainings that launched in April. Next slide, please. The community KPA strives to offer neutral spaces and opportunities where all voices are equal and connections are forged. So the development department is the star of this show in our first trimester, as they hosted several events to bring people together. The 1952 Society event welcomed renowned audiobook voice artist Eduardo Ballerini and greeted members of the 1952 Society and Readers Circle. Library Let's Loose 2023 planning continues for our signature event on the 23rd of September. And during National Volunteer Appreciation Week, we celebrated 3 of our own volunteers who have contributed more than 13,496 hours of service and counting to the library. This National Points of Light Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award is a national honor. Next slide, please. The Convenience KPA strives to deliver services and materials how, when, and where patrons want. Thanks to your leadership, we were able to implement Find Free at the library and continue to welcome lapsed users and new users back. Several staff teams assisted and coordinated with the Olathe Public Library in the opening of their downtown branch. Through our Memorandum of Understanding, we assisted in things like the integrated library system, Bibliocommons web catalog, and their sorter setup. And Corinth completed a comprehensive shifting project in the youth collection. So they moved every single book in the collection, making it more accessible for browsing and locating items just in time for summer reading. Next slide, please. The Communication KPA strives to listen and to share information with all, building strong connections and relationships. So the new Spanish website launched in March with a plan for continual development and upkeep. We celebrated and promoted Find Free, and that never gets old. The summer guide was prepared and mailed to 190,000 households, and we hope to see many new faces because of this reach. The library logo was updated. Our Merriam Plaza project has launched several videos about how to build a library, and the internal communication team is developing a new employee handbook. Next slide, please. The Operations KPA strives for library staff collaboration and coordination to create efficient procedures and processes. New furniture installs throughout the system continue to keep our buildings fresh and welcoming, and we continue to receive great feedback on our seating options and variety. IT cybersecurity planning is still ongoing, as I mentioned earlier, and administration works toward a reorganization plan to match the changing needs of library patrons and to support the pursuit of strategic goals. Last trimester, we welcomed 14 new and promoted staff. And that is all I have, but as is always the case, our staff has been busy producing much good work in the first trimester, and we thank them for that and keeping outstanding service in our community. Do you have any questions?
Is that diversity, equity, inclusion training, is that a virtual training that employees are doing, or is that in person?
The one that we started last fall began in virtual, and they had 3 online virtual sessions with lots of interactive breakout groups. And then the last session of that, everyone came together for an action planning session. So it was kind of a complete overview and then workshopping what we could do as a library system in the future.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I have one update that I forgot. It's just a think about the October board retreat. So the last retreat that we had was end of October. We went from 12 to 4. That was the time that worked for the most people. So Patty will be sending out a doodle poll for you to start to get some dates that work and times that work. Traditionally at the board retreat, no action is taken. It's a lot of ability or time for a discussion and alignment around action that we want to take. Last year, of course, you all prioritized the comprehensive library plan next projects. You sought alignment around going Find Free and also alignment around the direction for Spring Hill and DeSoto refreshes, how big or how small. We often also do policy review, so that may be part of it as well. But just wanted to get that on your radar and thinking about times and dates in October that might work for you. We typically do 3 or 4 hours, lunch or dinner, depending on what time of the day we have that. So when you see the doodle poll, respond, and then we can start getting that on people's calendars as we nail that down. And that wraps up my updates.
Okay. So on to the consent agenda. I need a motion, please.
I move the Library Board of Directors approve the consent agenda.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. We have no old business. Wow. And then new business, an information item, consideration of an approval of an MOU. Tricia, is that your briefing or?
Brian Vole, who is a reference librarian, and Joseph Keene, as well, our program and event coordinator, will present this.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Hello, my name is Brian Vole. I'm an adult services librarian and the local arts librarian for Johnson County Library. The MOU before you details a proposal to improve our model for how our exhibitions program operates. This is an informational item this evening, and we plan to return to this next month for approval. Currently, 10 of our 14 library branches offer art gallery spaces, where local artists have the opportunity to exhibit visual artwork. Our exhibitions program has traditionally been run entirely by staff, library staff. What we are looking to do is to turn the curation of these art spaces over to the art experts in our community, and in this case, Interurban Art House, which is an arts organization located in downtown Overland Park. Interurban Art House and Johnson County Library have cultivated a strong partnership over the last almost 10 years, and they have curated the Leawood Pioneer Art Gallery for the past several years, since 2016. Angie Hayduck, Chief Executive Officer of Interurban Art House, is joining us today, right over there. Welcome, Angie. Our two organizations' missions and core values of community engagement and our focus on inclusivity and diversity align. And we are excited to take this next step. And with that, I'll happily take any questions that you have.
Yeah, I have a question. You say library staff spend approximately 480 hours per year assisting with this work. How many people is that spread across?
The number, so I don't know the exact number. It's mostly me in the curation of 10 gallery spaces. And so that takes up a big chunk of my time to handle the paperwork and the artist payments, the agreements, and the actual coordination of the installations and the removal of the artworks.
So are you still going to be in communications and contact, having final say with this third-party curator?
Yeah, so we will operate under the idea of no surprises. So one of the ways that we have been working with Interurban Art House just on the Leawood Pioneer Gallery that they curate, which has meant that they have selected the artist. We know who that artist is. We know what the artwork is going to be, and we work closely with that artist before the artwork is installed. And that is the way that we will proceed to operate. We will know the artist before they install, and we will know what the artwork is prior to it going up.
So that interaction, what do you estimate, or if you haven't yet, maybe it's something you can come back with later, but what do you estimate that is going to equate to in terms of hours spent by library staff assisting with this type of work?
I can take some of these questions. So when it comes to the hours of staff, there's over, can't give the exact number, but it's over 15 staff members that are involved in this process, from finance department to managers approving the different agreements that do occur, presenter forms, clerks that are involved. So it's several touches that we're eliminating here, that there would be one payment process in place instead of 46 throughout, or 90 potentially throughout a year.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay, do we have any other questions? This is just information, so as you go about your week and into next month, if you have any other comments, questions, or concerns, you can send those to Patty, who can then pass them on to the appropriate channels, so that when it comes to our next meeting, we're not taking time having discussion, it's just an MOU. That if you have any concerns before we get there, that would free up our time if we can have them addressed ahead of time instead of it turning into a discussion. So that would be fantastic in terms of a use of everybody's time, if that works for everybody.
Thank you.
Fantastic. And our next information item, consideration of a resolution requesting bonds. Mr. Rodney.
One more time, and then I promise I'll go away for the day. So in front of you is a briefing sheet that is related to future Public Building Commission, PBC, bond resolutions and lease documents. So this briefing sheet is essentially just to let you know that these documents will be submitted for your review and approval at our upcoming July Library Board meeting that's scheduled for July 13th. I know representatives of Gilmore Bell, who's the Public Building Commission Bond Counsel, have already begun reaching out to Fred and Andy Logan. And so there's coordination and planned review of the documents taking place, I would assume, later this month in preparation for that July 13th when we'll bring back those bond resolutions and lease PBC lease documents. And then the PBC, so the Public Building Commission, is heading towards an August 9th bond sale, which would include the Marion Plaza Library project as being part of that sale. And the debt proceeds for that sale are expected back in early September. I heard from Leslie Friedel, who's the the debt coordinator for the county, that they're anticipating bond closing on September 7th. So that means we should hopefully receive those bond proceeds on September 7th. So with that, I'll stand for any questions you might have with regards to any of that. So
Remind me of the cost of the library itself.
the total project
Yeah,
cost is a
yes.
little over 13 million, of which I think we've got about 6.5 that's going out on this bond sale, upcoming bond sale. Great,
Any other questions?
thank you.
Okay, fantastic. So just a kind of reminder in terms of board, what we need from you is Patty's going to send out the doodle poll for our upcoming fall retreat. And for our new members, as you are more fully onboarded, that Patty is a contact point for if you've got questions for admin and stuff, she can direct you to the appropriate department and help answer any questions that you have. I know that there have been various kind of requests for data, for information, and if it is stuff that is readily available, that is very, very simple. If you have asked a newer question and no one has considered it, that might take a little bit more time in terms of actually getting you the proper answer. That as librarians, their sacred oath is to get you the right information in the appropriate amount of time versus just something to make you think you're okay and it's wrong. So obviously, any patience would be helpful on your part for those kinds of things, and that goes for your officers too, that if there are things about procedures or questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email is readily available. And also, as you are becoming more familiar and comfortable with what your role is, there's research and things that you may come across that you want to bring up. And that's to some extent what your remarks are for, that things you've been thinking of, things that you have seen out in the community, that you also get to participate in the things that we look at, that we discuss, and that we consider. And so as everybody is onboarding, that is also an opportunity for you to more fully participate in what this board is it's not just listening to reports and data, though that is part of it, but also you getting to ensure that none of us are missing gaps in knowledge, information, or in ways that we can be proactive to continue to do what our job is. And so please go forward and be dynamic and interesting and ask good questions.
I do have a question based on those comments and the discussion on the board. You mentioned that this MOU, the discussion of the Interurban Arts Council, that you didn't want to have discussion of it
I would
at the
like
next
that
meeting?
if there is anybody who has questions that we could get information for, so that we don't end up on a hold again. So that if, as you read through
Thank you
all
for
of the briefing
clarifying.
material, that if you have a question, I would like to give the people who can answer those questions information for when they come back to actually present it, so that we don't then have to push it to July. If, instead of, obviously, I don't want to curb discussion, I would like to efficiently use our time and your time as well. And so if a little bit of homework between now and then, reading that so that we have an opportunity to gather all of the information that we have, could be more appropriately used so that we're not waiting again that, oh, I need time to actually gather that data. If we could use the time between this meeting and that one for the gathering of information would be fantastic. Does that address that concern? Thank you. Anything else?
I just want to wish both Mitra and Bethany a great trip to ALA, the American Library Association in Chicago. We have several, Kinsley, Dave, and Adam, and many other staff. Dave has never been to a library conference, and I know Mitra and Bethany both have, so they are your spirit animals during that conference. And then if anybody is interested in serving as part of the RFP interview selection panel for observation, just let Patty know if you think of that, so, or if you know now.
I'm interested.
Okay.
Excellent.
We'll write you down.
Okay. Fantastic.
I'm interested as well, Tricia.
Okay. All right, sold.
All righty. Well, that was easy. I didn't have to volunteer anybody. I appreciate you stepping up. Okay, all I need is a motion to adjourn.
I move the library board of directors adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Fantastic. See you guys in July. Thank you.